Okay, hello everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. And hello, I am Ajendra Surya, and today I will present to you about my analysis regarding the play by J.M. Singe entitled Riders in the Sea. This play was packed with a lot of symbolism, drama, and most importantly, interesting aspects. And I will present to you about this play. So, we have five key points here that I want to discuss later. Now, one is the biography of J.M. Singe or John Milton Singe himself, the literary movement at that time, Irish historical context, issues poverty, involving poverty, gender roles, fate and fate. And then lastly, the most interesting part is the symbolism. Now, firstly, I will tell a story about J.M. Singe himself. So, he was born to an Irish family. He have an Irish blood. So, no wonder he wrote about a life of Irish people, right? Born to an Irish family on 16th of April 1871, and his father passed away from smallpox when he was an infant. Growing up, he moved away from his mother's religious fervor toward agnosticism after reading Darwin. So we can see his thought about agnosticism and his thought about religion itself in this play, and we will discuss it later. And he studied at Trinity College and the Royal Irish Academy of Music. He traveled abroad to Germany, Paris, and Italy to study music and write poetry. Okay, let me repeat. He traveled abroad to Germany, Paris, and Italy to study music and write poetry. So he wasn't only a playwright, author, or poet, but he initially a musician, but he played poorly somehow. I've read somewhere. So later he met W.B. Yeats in Paris, who inspired his passion for the Irish literary renaissance. His own blood, his own heritage, the Irish people. Following Yeats' advice, he traveled to the Aran Island to observe the peasantry there. Sorry. So, in the Aran Island, he wrote about the lives of people there. Uh, Remarkable observation from him. And then he became a director of the Irish National Theatre Society alongside Yeats and Lady Gregory, celebrated for capturing the musicality of Irish speech patterns in English writing. Because he specially write Irish uh, plays like Riders to the Sea in English, while inserting Irish vocabulary that's specially used by Irish people. And then he tragically died of lymphatic cancer on 24th of March 1909. So, this is the literary movement there, the Irish literary renaissance. It was triggered by the resurgence of pride in Irish identity, culture, and efforts to preserve the Gaelic language. It's the traditional language of Irish people, and it was led by figures like Sinch himself, W.B. Yeats, and Sean O'Casey. And this movement was aimed to rediscover authentic Irish heritage through local legends, folktale, and even accurate history. Now, literature as cultural revival. It was focused heavily on the poorer class and peasantry, as evident Riders on the Sea, written by Sinch himself, and it was sought to establish a unique literary voice separate from English traditions. Because the writings of Sinch himself portrays the lives of Irish people, and it was really separable from the English ones. And later, I will explain to you about the historical context about the de-Anglicization. What is that? Wait. Okay. So Riders to the Sea exemplifies this by grounding high tragedy in a simple rural fisherman's cottage. So the tragedy of human loss, philosophy, faith, the fate, inevitable death, packed in the simple setting of a rural fisherman's cottage in Ireland. It's very cool, right? Okay, so then the political climate. Okay, earlier I've mentioned about the term the Anglification or the Anglicize. So, Riders to the Sea was written during a period of strong desire to Anglicize Ireland, meaning purification from English elements, English aspects from Ireland. So, because Ireland was still under British rule at that time, and the literary revival helped stir the nationalist sentiments that eventually led to the 1919 Irish War of Independence. Next, Irish historical context. The Iron Island setting, located off the west coast of Ireland, it was isolated from heavy English influence. Traditional culture and the Gaelic language were highly preserved here. The islanders lived in constant physical confrontation with the harsh elements of nature, as shown in the play by J.M. Sinch, Riders on the Sea. Through visits to Aran Island, Sinch gathered the material for Riders on the Sea by taking notes on the people who lived there. He take notes on the behavior, their livelihoods, and etc. etc. Everything. So he could write an accurate play. Yeah, what we're talking about right now, Riders on the Sea. Issue 1, the reality of poverty. The family's survival depends entirely on the dangerous sea. Yeah, as seen in the historical evidence
Okay.
from the uh, yeah from this Aran Island setting that was noted by J.M. Sinch himself, and the loss of men directly equates to a loss of economic stability because traditionally the men were the ones responsible for making money at that time. The pigs that were almost eating the rope indicates the family's current economic situation too. Then Bartley leaves instructions to sell the pigs if the jobber comes to get money and gather seaweed for kelp, perhaps as the main livelihood for them once Bartley is gone. He notes how hard it will be for the family with no one in it but one man to work, indicating the responsibilities Bartley carries. Human life is weighed against basic survival resources in this case. Their livelihoods depend on the sea. Next, the theme from the story is gender roles, the division of labor. It is clear that the division of labor is very evident here uh, between the space and the duties. So, women responsible for managing the domestic sphere, the domestic space like kneading cakes, spinning, cooking, or stitching, while men face the public world by fishing and trading and sailing, like what the Moria sons and fathers do. And then Bartley instructs Kathleen on men's chores before leaving. showing the probable economic disruption caused if the men dying off soon, earlier than the women. Next issue is the gender roles, the burden of grief. Kathleen states that it is the life of a young man to be going on the sea. States that, yeah, men should seek fortunes for the family. And the play highlights the emotional turmoil on the women who are left behind to wait, mourn, and keen. Yeah, the tragedy belongs as much to the women who survive as to the men who drowned. And this is the interesting part. We earlier mentioned that Sinch developed an agnostic belief because he read Darwin, but he initially lived in a religious household from his mother. Now, this is the interesting part. A continuous tension exists between Catholic faith, the priest's prayers, and older pagan beliefs, the omens that Moria believes. Yeah, this is the Celtic beliefs. The young priest insists God will protect the family, but Moria knows it's little the like of him knows about the sea. So, prayer is not enough in reality, yeah. So, in reality, omen hold more truth than prayers. And the Moria's vision of Michael predicts Bartley's death precisely. Issue 3, the inevitability of death itself. Despite our precautions and prayers, fate cannot be avoided, cannot be uh, refused to be taken. To be taken. Moria eventually surrenders to its inevitability, her acceptance, by saying that no man at all can be living forever, and we must be satisfied. This is a profound sense of determinism that rules the islanders' lives. Like he knows that everything was taken from her, and it is the pattern of the man's death that bring her up to that conclusion. Next is the symbolism, the rope, life versus death. So this is the ironic part. The rope physically connects the family survival to their mortality. So survival and mortality. Proven by Bartley needs a halter to ride the mare to Galway Fair to sell horses. The mortal aspect, the economic aspect of the story, which is their livelihood. But Moria intended to use it for Michael's burial, proven by Moria that begs Bartley to leave the rope, warning that it will be needed to lower Michael into the deep grave. So you can see the contrast between these two, mortality and death. Ironically, the fact that the pig was trying to eat the rope shows the desperate reality of their poverty. So I think pig here still regarded as filthy animal that contrasts sharply with the sacred use of the Moria, the rope, once for. So pig is filthy, but the rope is going to be used for sacred purposes, and that's ironic too. Next, the coffin box. This is the most evident uh, symbolism in the play. So the whiteboard sit in the kitchen against the wall throughout the entire play, acting as a constant visual reminder that death lives inside the home within them. And it was inevitable around everyone, around them, around our families, their families. And Moria paid a big price for the boards for Michael, but ironically, they are used to bury Bartley instead, and that's tragic and ironic. The family remembered the boards but forgot to buy nails. This is one of the details too. symbolizing how sheer weight of continuous grief, like the death of the male figure in Moria's house, has left Moria broken and unable to manage practical focuses. Now, I think this is the most interesting symbolism, the red mare and the grey pony. It symbolizes the ironic theme of life and death, too. Partly, Res rides the red mare. Red symbolizes fatality, blood, and the living world. The grey pony follows behind, symbolizing death, the afterlife, and inevitability of death. In Moria's terrifying second sight, the vision, at the spring well, she sees the ghost of Michael riding the grey pony directly behind Bartley. And in Celtic folklore, seeing the dyad riding alongside the living being is a strange omen that the living person's time is up. Bartley's death is inevitable, inevitable. And as I've mentioned earlier, Sinch adopted agnosticism, and two of the symbolism is one of the thought how he conceived religious thoughts to his mind. Catholicism is represented as a fragile, failing comfort on the island, proven by the priest. The young priest promises that the Almighty God won't leave her destitute, but the reality is completely the contrast. But he is completely wrong in reality. Moria says the tragic flaw in priest's optimism, stating, like as I've said earlier, it's little like the like of him knows of the sea. It proves that yeah, prayer is not really uh, helpful, quote unquote, without any struggle. This, the actual struggle is partly uh, being an obedient son, and listens to Moria's prohibition for going to the sea. That's the struggle to prevent his death, but he completely denies it, and yeah, the fate's already written to him about his death. And Moria sprinkles holy water over Bartley's body and Michael's clothes at the end, but it offers no physical salvation or protection, but it's only reduced to a hollow uh, ceremonial ritual for the dead rather than a shield for the living. And this is the interesting part, the sea as the most supreme power, the supernal being here. So, Sinch portrays natural causes is higher than God's, and this higher than the prayers of the priest. Sea symbolizes the fate, inevitable fate too. The sea acts as the play's main villain and a pagan deity that displayed his hostility as if demanding constant sacrifice. The sea strips away human identity, like Michael, that was a great rower and a fisherman, is reduced by the sea to nothing more than a bit of an old shirt and a plain stocking. The sea ultimately claims Moria's husband, his father, and all six of her sons to be devoured by the sea. And the play's dark resolution is that Moria only finds peace because the sea has completely emptied her life, taking everything from her by saying they're all gone now, and there isn't anything more than the sea can do to me. Yeah, the sea cannot do anything to me anymore because everything that's supposed to be taken by him was taken from her. And yeah, that's for that's all for my presentation regarding JM Sinjas Rider Sulasi, and personally, I have a strong connection to this player because, uh, yeah, sometimes I've played as Bartley in an occasion of drama. Yeah, it's a long time ago actually. Okay, so thank you for your attention. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Bye bye, guys. Uh, Let me know if you want any discussion below. Bye.